Howdy, and welcome to everyone that is just joining us. All right, I have just a couple of slides to get us started, and then you can take over from there if that sounds good.
That sounds perfect.
All right, well, howdy everyone, and welcome to the first session of the Perusall Academy, joint effort between the Center for Teaching Excellence here at Texas A&M and Perusall. My name is CJ Shields, and I'm from the Center for Teaching Excellence. And Nolan is joining me from Perusall, and I'll let him introduce himself if he wants to say anything, or may have a more formal introduction in just a moment when he gets started.
Engagement specialist with Perusall, and I think I would guess that I've probably chatted with a few people here from Texas A&M that may be in the webinar here today.
Well, it's great to have everyone. If you want to introduce yourself in the chat, please feel free to do that. We'd love to know where you're from, what department you're with, all those sorts of things. So that we have those future contacts and connections. Our learning outcomes today, no one's going to go over these more in depth as well, but we are going to talk about how to launch a Perusall course, how to connect Perusall to Canvas, and how to create engaging assignments so that you're up and running really quickly with your students. So those are our three objectives for today, and I'm sure Nolan will add more detail to those throughout the presentation, but that's really about it for me. I will be monitoring the chat, answering questions, directing those up to Nolan as needed, but I'm going to turn it over to him and let him share all of his expertise with us today.
So thank you so much, CJ, and excited to meet with you all today. And today we're actually going to be doing, you'll note over here. Nope, there we go. These three badges here. So we are doing our Perusall Academy, and we're doing a custom one here today for Texas A&M, and very excited to do so. Today is our Kickstart. So as CJ was saying, this is our introductory webinar that we're tailoring directly for your institution. And we are going to cover the basics of Perusall, what it is, if you may not have had any interaction with our platform before, a quick little description on how it came to be. We'll talk about how to get it connected to Canvas. I'm going to provide you with all the links that you're going to need to do exactly that. And we're going to talk about how to get a course up and running, your students in, your materials in, and how to build some basic assignments. So a real foundational look at everything today. And then the next one, we're going to do a next level. We're going to take a deep dive. That's the webinar where we'll talk about advanced assignment creations, things like that, a more technical look at the system and how you can really increase your teaching with Perusall. Last webinar we do is the mastery, and that's kind of taking everything we've learned in the previous two and tying it all together for just a master look at the Perusall platform. So for today, I'm going to grab the screen here. We're going to hop right in. So Perusall was actually created by instructors for instructors as a way to get students to better engage with the material that they were providing. And this ranged from textbooks and articles to web pages, videos, podcasts, and images, which even now there's more to that. Now you can upload Google Docs, you can do Google Sheets, PowerPoint presentations, Word docs, any material and course content that you want to use for your students to engage with, you can upload to Perusall. And this is a social learning platform. And the point of that is to bring that singular experience of, sitting in a library or at home and you're reading your textbook or a PDF or an article by yourself, taking that, making it a social learning experience with your peers where you can pull more knowledge than you typically would from that content. And so with that being said, when every instructor creates a course in Perusall, whether it's one that you'd be connecting to your Canvas LMS instance or one that you would have students log in through perusall.com, when you create that course, you're going to be met with this same page. And now for returning users or folks that may have taken a little bit of time off, you may have noticed this is a new area. We have revamped our Getting Started page to provide all of our instructors and our instructional designers with 4 step-by-step guides on what to consider when building out your Perusall course. And step 1 is just a little welcome message. We explain about the platform, how it can benefit you and your students, and then a couple things to consider. So when going into Perusall, some of the things you want to think about before you start building your course is what your goals are, what you want to achieve. Is it deeper level of engagement with the content? Is it more engagement with your students on a peer-to-peer level and then having that group work take place? A lot of things to consider. And we kind of walk you through that here. We also give you a breakdown of our scoring. So Perusall provides you with the option of employing our automatic scoring system and our engagement analytics. These are turned on by default. However, you can customize these at any point. You can use the default automatic grading and engagement analytics, or you can have a balance between the two. You could do manual grading with the analytics. You could do just the analytics, or you can turn everything off. Completely up to you. And we give a nice little breakdown of that here so you can get an idea of how will Perusall best fit me in regards to scoring and analytics. We also provide a nice little scoring video, breaks down everything in a way that we're going to cover here today. So that is available in all Perusall courses. And lastly is what materials you want to use in your course. That's something I'm going to take you through in depth here. But this is where that option would be that explains that a little further. And so that does lead us here into step 2, selecting content. And that leads us into our first foundational aspect of Perusall, which is our course library. So the course library is found here. And in the course library, this is where you're going to upload all your material and content that you want your students to engage with, whether it's a textbook from our catalog, to PDFs, EPUBs, Word docs, all those things I was listing off before, web pages, videos, podcasts, all of that can be brought in. We're going to go over a couple of these in detail here in a moment. But first, let's start with the Perusall catalog. Our catalog currently houses over 1.1 million titles, and that's actually in part due to a recent partnership with Penguin Random House Publishing. So all of our literature folks that are here today, if you are a course that utilizes those textbooks, I know one of them was Dante's Inferno. I was just helping a instructor get in, which brought me back to my days when I read that. It was a fun read. But you can add those textbooks to your course here. And textbooks are something that students would purchase through the Perusall platform if it is assigned to your course. And how that works is that if an instructor uses a textbook, they'll come in here, they'll find their textbook, the one they need to use, they'll search by ISBN, title, whatever it may be, find that textbook and request it to be added to their course. So once you find the one you want to use, for this one, we'll go Top Secret Canada. You select it and then you click Request Title here. It'll go through our verification process and it will be put into your library. And then your students, when they load into your course, would be prompted to purchase that textbook through us. But as you can see here, depending on the publisher, we do offer different price points of that text. So there is the 180-day, 365, and perpetual access, depending on what the publisher offers, to give your students a little break in price. And we don't at Perusall raise or set any of the textbook prices ourselves. We actually just go with whatever the publisher has set forth for the national price point, and we stick with that. So your students purchase at that price point through us, and then they can annotate upon that textbook within the Perusall platform. If your students though would prefer to purchase at your bookstore, we partner with all bookstores. Students can purchase access codes, and this is great for students using financial aid or need any sort of aid program we partner with as well, so that students always have access to the materials that they need. So that's textbooks in Perusall, fairly straightforward. Then we have our documents, PDFs, EPUBs, Google Slides, that's a newer upgrade, Google Documents, good stuff there. And web pages. Web pages are interesting. It's not a link to the web page. So with Perusall being a social learning platform, we actually go and take a snapshot in time of that web page and bring it into Perusall so that it becomes a piece of material that can be commented upon. So the reason I bring that up is because a lot of websites change very quickly, usually in the form of ads that are on there, which can make instructors think, well, wait a minute, something changed and it's not reflecting in Perusall. So what I like to make our folks know is it's a snapshot in time. when you select that website to be put into Perusall, it's that moment in time of that website and nothing will be updated accordingly. You can update it yourself to reflect those changes, but that happens few and far between. Usually this is the page we want, the information's there, we'll leave it as is. The next thing that actually starts off in your library is quizzes. And with having a Canvas integration, you are able to port over quizzes. And you can actually, though, what we do find most of our instructors utilizing is building quizzes from scratch within Perusall. So within Perusall, you can build any type of quiz that you need and customize it to meet the type of questions you want. It doesn't have to be strict multiple choice or strict essay only. You can create a combination of all those question types, and those can be found here. So as you can see, you can do questions in the format of text only and multiple choice, all the way to short answer and math expression and essay. Essay questions, though, they're not graded on correctness. They're just graded on whether or not you put in a minimum word count. Then if your students reach that minimum word count, they get graded as correct. Or you can leave that blank and then you, the instructor, have to come in and manually grade. So these aren't graded on correctness, but very widely utilized. And with our STEM folks, we do have the math expression tool. So when you are putting in questions of the format of, math, this could be physics, chemistry, mathematics, any sort of formula-driven questions, you can then use our graphical editor that we have here that gives you access to all the good things that used to stress me out when I was in school. From sine, cosine, and tangent to all the inverse, log functions, all of it can be found here. It's fantastic. And great for our STEM folks, that gets widely used, and so does this custom quiz format. And again, those are built out first within the library. Videos and podcasts too. With videos, we do find ourselves in an age where our learning models have changed a little to accommodate distance learning, hybrid learning models, things of that nature. And so we find a lot of instructors recording their own lectures. Now instructors can upload those lectures to Perusall for students to watch through and work on together. And the only thing with any video, even if it's a lecture or just a random TED Talk on YouTube, the videos must be publicly accessible. They cannot be behind any sort of paywall or subscription model, and they need to be housed in either YouTube or Vimeo because we are connected to those media players. You can also upload a direct MP4 file if it's housed within Dropbox or Google Drive, but just remember it needs to be a publicly accessible video. And podcasts, very straightforward. You can come in here and you can just, type in a TED Talk, search for the podcast run you want to put forth, and you can jump right in and assigning those and putting them into your library. The last thing that I want to make mention of, this is great for our instructional designers here today. This is also great for our instructors who teach the same exact course every other semester or every semester. We have an efficiency tool. It's this one here called Materials from Another Course. And this is also found, you may have noticed here in our Getting Started area, under Selecting Content, Step 2. It's Start with an Empty Course, which is what we just covered in the library. There's also this option here for Copy an Existing Course. So it's found here, and it's found in the library under Materials from Another Course. Same tool. And what this allows you to do is, if you've taken the time to build out your Perusall course and you love the way you have it set up, you love the material that you've built into your library and the assignments you've created, as well as the course settings, you don't have to go through the process of recreating all that again. You can actually select the exact content you want to use, have it transferred over. You can select all the assignments or just the custom assignments that you want sent over. You can adjust the deadlines of all those assignments to be reflecting or to reflect the new course. And you can copy over every course setting, including scoring, that you've taken the time to really dial in. So if you teach, say a 101 class every other semester, you don't need to take the time to rebuild that in Perusall. You can just click this button here, everything goes, and it's ready for you at launch. Very great tool to save some time. And this is one of our newer ones, and it's one of my favorites. A lot of our instructors will now take the time to go into Perusall and they'll leave prompts in the assignments. They'll be like, hey, pay attention to this area, or they'll ask a very specific question, or they'll build scaffolded assignments where it's based upon these prompts that are built out throughout every piece of material in there. Instructors can now copy those comments over. This only applies to instructor comments. Student data can never be copied from course to course. It is private and unique to every course, and it is held within that course. You cannot copy it over. We take that very seriously. So student data we hold with the utmost importance, and it is just locked into every course. Instructor data, however, you can copy over. If you want to copy over those comments to have them embedded in material for another course because you like the way they're set up, you can do that. Great efficiency tool. For instructional designers, if you're building courses for folks and you've built out a full course with all the material in the library, all the assignments, all the settings, you have a code that you can give to instructors, and they can enter that copy code here, and they can copy over that exact course shell that you've built without you then being present within the course. So if they only want to be if they want to be the only instructor in that course, the one making all the changes, they can copy over that course exactly as you've built it for them without any issue. And that's using a copy code, which is also in our Getting Started, which I'll show you here in a moment. So under our Getting Started tab, you'll notice here under step 4, there's the access code for the students, but under, sorry, my leg fell asleep. But yes, so our instructional designers can indeed copy that over, and it's actually found here under settings, access. You'll go here to instructors and you have a copy code. So instead of having the instructional designer present on a course, they would use this copy code to give that course to an instructor. So great tool there. And that is our selecting content, which is our foundation of Perusall. So once you have your library built out, you have all your material in there and everything you want to teach from, now you need to start thinking about, okay, how do I want to set this course up to be beneficial to our students? But before I jump into that, because that is a very information heavy topic, were there any questions that I can answer real quick about our library, about getting started therein?
There are not any in the chat right now, Nolan. If anybody has any, feel free to drop them in. I know a question I get common that I get asked a lot is the difference between the paid resources and those that are the OER resources. Sure. In the database. And so nobody's asked that question, but it is one I get a lot. So I don't know if that might be worth one talking a little bit more about.
Yeah. There's really no difference. I would say the only difference is if it's a textbook, students just have to purchase that textbook through us. Other than that, open educational resources, free for students to utilize, free for instructors to upload. There's actually no associated cost with using Perusall except for purchasing those textbooks. Or and I always forget the acronym. OpenStax, sorry. OpenStax has a subscription for $10.99. We do partner with them. So if that's something your students, they would purchase that through Perusall, and then they would get all the benefits of that OpenStax subscription, and all the material would be loaded in for them. So if you're using OpenStax, that's the other cost. But all other material, free to upload, free for students to utilize. And I would say that a lot of our users fall into either two camps. It's textbooks and the occasional OER resource, or it's OER resources. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have a question in the chat
Sure.
from Karen. I have an EMBA class that will be using IB business cases and Harvard cases. Can you outline the procedure there for how that would work? And the EMBA program will cover the cost of those resources.
Great question. Okay, so it depends on a couple of things. And I would recommend reaching out, and I'll put their email in the chat here in a second, to our operations manager. So with journal articles and things of that nature, it depends on if they're stored in a database. But if that cost is covered by the institution and the students have or you, the instructor, has access to it, then that changes how it can be added to Perusall. But it is possible, yes. It just depends on, there are different journal and article databases like JSTOR and things like that. So it depends on how students have to go about retrieving that content. But I'm going to put here in the chat our operations manager's email, and you can reach out to them with that question. They'll be able to make sure you get the exact guidance on how to set that course up, but it can be done. Yeah.
And also, I know at the A&M librarians also a lot of information about which subscriptions we have and which ones are able to be used. In fact, we just updated the website. I will grab that in a minute. There's a contact there, and I will find that contact and drop it in the chat. Also have a question from Zhao Young, and if I mispronounce your name, I apologize. Please feel free to correct me. What is a typical use case of Perusall? It seems like it's most useful for courses that involve a lot of reading assignments. How can it further facilitate discussions between students who, when integrated into Canvas? I know you're going to talk a little bit more about that later on, Nolan, but that might be good to address a little bit right now too.
Yeah, so we are going to go into depth with that soon. Perusall does integrate very easily with your Canvas instance, and I actually have the directions right here, which I can link now, and I don't want to forget. So here are the directions to link your Canvas instance to Perusall, or other way around, link your Perusall to your Canvas instance. But very straightforward to do so, and it's a fantastic integration. Your students don't have to do anything. So they don't have to create an account with Perusall or anything. They simply click on one of your assignment specific links in Canvas. They get loaded directly into the Perusall platform, directly into the assignment that you've actually created. So that step-by-step guide is going to walk you through exactly what to do. And again, very digestible. Our support team's always there to help as well, but very easy integration for your students. Now, use cases. Everyone uses Perusall. It's something from STEM courses in mathematics and physics and chemistry and organic chem to we're in every discipline. I'm like a perfect example of this. I'm meeting with folks in about 2 weeks at UCLA who have 5,000 students using it in every single discipline on campus. And I wish I had a clone of myself, because I do this all day, every day. And part of my job is helping instructors from all different disciplines make sure their course is built out right. So use cases can range from a music theory instructor at the Berklee School of Music who I've helped, who uploaded their original sheet music and have students annotating upon that to see how improvements can be made, to introductory psychology 101 classes and literature classes, classics, mathematics, students just working on math problems. We have criminology courses and law students, and it really, it goes beyond all disciplines. This can be worked with, including into folks who are teaching vocational courses. I have helped this with folks who are doing automotive classes and folks who are doing carpentry and woodworking. It's whatever form of content you may need to be uploaded that you want to ensure that your students not only engage with, whether it's text, video, or image-based, but you want to make sure they retain it. Perusall fits that mold. Our retention rate is ridiculously high. I forget the percentage. It's in one of the studies on our website, but if I'm remembering correctly, our retention rate from the studies that our founders have done for material digested by students is upwards of 90%. So they hold on to the material that they engage with. And a lot of that has to do with the social learning environment. So the use cases are honestly endless, and it's pretty cool. And I'm very fortunate to have been able to help a lot of instructors from nearly every discipline do that. But yeah, I would say any sort of course material is just getting your students to actually work and engage on it. And if that covers it with questions, I'm going to switch this back. So we covered our library. That's your foundation. That's your core of Perusall. That's where all the assignments and everything's going to be built from. Your next one, step 3 here, basic settings. This is your standard stuff to consider and information to put forth. The department you're in, start date, end date of your course, and the scoring and analytics. So we touched on this very briefly before about the 4 options available to you, and they can actually be found here. We also provide a written breakdown of how all 4 of these options work. There's the automatic grading with the engagement analytics. This is Perusall full force, essentially. You get the automatic grading for not only the metrics, but also the quality of comments, and that can all be customized. We'll talk about that in a moment. And the engagement analytics, you can do manual grading, you can disable grading, or you can disable everything altogether. These are pretty much split into 2 camps. These 2 here, automatic grading, manual grading with the analytics, that's the norm for most traditional course student models, with the emphasis being on this first option here. That's what almost all of our users go for in that type of situation. Some prefer manual grading, depends on the course, depends on what the instructor is doing. And these 2 here are heavily used because Perusall is also a very powerful tool outside of the strictly academic world. So folks hosting professional development seminars, webinars that are trainings similar to this, laboratory courses. Perusall can actually be changed to fit that mold. You can change all the terminology in the course and things like that. That's something we cover in a later webinar. And that's where these 2 options typically get used, is for those types of professional development, student book club, student study groups, laboratories, those kind of things. We'll typically see these 2 used most often. And now for one of the very core functions of Perusall. Being a social learning environment, you're going to want to ensure that your students have the most cohesive communication environment to participate in. Because with larger enrollment courses, we found where if there's 100 students in the course and they're all working on the same assignment at the same time, that's a lot of comments coming in. That's a lot of information for students to digest, which is why Perusall automatically has a system built in for your courses to be broken into smaller groups. This promotes healthier conversation. It promotes a more digestible amount of conversation, and students actually learn more in those smaller group environments. So if your enrollment estimate, we'll say, is 15 students, just for some easy math here, we would typically recommend that broken down into 3 groups of 5. We find the healthiest size groups being ranging between 5 to 12 students is about the norm for most courses. And that's great for, enrollments of anywhere from 15 up to 60, 70, 80 plus students. And having those smaller group sets keeps things manageable for your students. It also keeps things manageable for you, the instructor. You can sort through the comments much quicker and in a way that allows you to really see the conversations that are happening. We're going to take a look at that here in a moment. With that being said, that's not mandatory. A lot of courses, have enrollments of 15 to 20 students, perfectly manageable amount when the instructor knows the students. It's, often a graduate level course or a smaller enrollment course. If you set these 2 numbers equal to each other, that makes everyone into one group and the entire class participates as a whole on every assignment generated through Perusall. So that is an option available as well. Some of our instructors do utilize that depending on the course. There are instances too where we have enrollments that are very high. I actually have a course of yours. It's at Texas A&M. I won't name names or point fingers, but there are 700 students in that course. And so we've had to adjust those groups accordingly in order for those students to be in a more functional environment. So that does increase the group size. So Perusall is compatible with enrollment estimates from 15 students to, I have a mathematics course that has 1,500 students in it. It's an introductory algebra course and it's massive. And with the right grouping configuration, that can be done. So that's how grouping ideally is set up for courses. With that being said, it functions based on your library. So this core that we just built here, our library, every piece of material that you upload into your library will get a new configuration of groups automatically. So you don't have to worry about changing groups between pieces of material. And how those groups function is every single piece or every single assignment that you create from this piece of material, those groups will stay together. They'll learn from that same piece of material together. And then when you switch to something new, they'll get a new configuration of groups, a new set of eyes to work together with, and they'll stay together for every assignment from that piece of material. And you can see that at any time here by clicking on that piece of material in the library. And there's this grouping button here. When we click this, we can see that automatically generated group set. And we see, there's 5 in each one. This course actually had 17 students. So we see that runoff, 2 groups of 6, 1 group of 5 to make things as balanced as possible. And with that being said, these are customizable. If you want to change this around before the course starts, you can reshuffle these groups at any time. You can move a student from here to there if need be. If I could just get my mouse to click, which it's not. Let me get it out and back in. There we go. So you can move students around manually, and you can configure these groups as you need. And that's the functionality that most instructors use. They go with that automatic grouping feature because it just turns everything on autopilot, makes things easy, really helps with the course. Now, there is an override to that. If that's not a system you want to use, if you'd prefer to use the groups you've built out in Canvas, or if you'd prefer to use the groups that you select yourself and keep them together throughout the entirety of the course, that can be done under settings, grouping, specify groups. So you notice when you select this option here, this is where we can automatically create our groups. And so by doing that, entering those numbers here, and then, we just repeat, you'll notice now we have 3 groups down here that we can customize the name of, whatever need be, and they'll stick together throughout the entire course, regardless of the material they're working in. And no matter which assignment they're in, they're always going to be stuck together. So great tool there. And again, you can always import your groups through this manner from a spreadsheet, or when you connect to Canvas, you can port over those groups from Canvas. So that's another option too. And so that's grouping in Perusall, making sure everyone's set up and ready to go. Those are the basic settings. And now we're going to switch gears to assignments. Now that we know, okay, we got a course material, we know how our course is going to operate. Let's talk about building assignments now for our students to work on, and then we'll talk about how to evaluate. And we'll finish up with that learning management connection. But before we do, I'm going to take a look in the chat.
There's a question about the confusion report.
Yeah.
June, again, I apologize if I mispronounced her name, wants to know if it's on the roadmap to filter out all the student questions in a report.
So this is actually a great question. Excuse me. Not right now. There are things in the works to do this sort of work for our instructors. So that is in development. I don't know the time frame on that though. But it's also going to be a little more robust. It won't be just a collection of questions for the assignment. It's going to be a pretty cool feature. That's about all I can say on that right now, but it is in the works. I can't put a time frame on it. The confusion report we will touch on in a moment. It is beneficial. I do apologize that it doesn't meet your specific needs, but we have heard that instructors want more quantifiable interpretations of the student data, which is a large undertaking for us to build out, but we are working on it. So fingers crossed it happens sooner than later. I do know it's in the works, and that's all the details I can provide on that right now. But with that addressed, let's hop into assignments. And actually, before we do, and it's a perfect transition here, we actually have a new assignment that we've created for everyone. It's an introductory assignment. It is called Making the Most of Learning with Perusall. And this is for your students. It is a 30-minute introductory scaffolded assignment that you don't have to do anything with. It is pre-built for you. It's a great tool. And All you need to do is select the disciplinary area, whether it's STEM, humanities, or social sciences. We kept it as general as possible, and a due date. And in doing so, you will have successfully created a 6-part assignment for your students to work on that is very easy for your students to navigate through. It's like a proper guided tour. So now one of the other great things about Perusall is we've listened to our students. We've taken the time to get to know them. We've taken the time to get to know our instructors. And our support team, myself, our founders, we took the time to build a fantastic welcome tour for our students. As soon as they log into Perusall for the first time, they get that tour, and every student ignores it almost immediately. It's like that hard work went nowhere. And that's just students with technology in general. It's like, oh, there's a tour. I don't need it. I'm good to go. So we came up with this idea where it's an actual assignment that students will learn how to navigate the world of social learning. They'll learn how to write high quality comments, learn how to engage with their peers, and learn how to navigate the Perusall system. It was built by our founders, our support team, as well as some of our power Perusall users and instructors. It's fantastic. Works very well. Only takes 30 minutes. I highly recommend it for your students. It's a great tool. And that is available in the library. It's also available when creating an assignment here. There's a little drop-down menu. You see making the most of Perusall. So that's a great introductory assignment, but let's talk about your assignments. And today we're going to take a very basic look at that. With Perusall, when you want to add an assignment, you can click this button here to add. There's also our little green button here to add an assignment. And we walk you through every step of the process. And today we are going to just do a very basic single part assignment. You can take this as far as you want. You can do multi-part assignments that have different pieces of content embedded in there, such as a text with a video followed up by a quiz and maybe a little funny image at the end to tie it all together. You can make this as customized as you want. And we will touch on that in the next webinar, the next level. We go into depth with all that. We talk about multimodal assignments, differentiated assignments, peer review assignments, all that good stuff. But today we're going to go with the one part. And so this is why the library is most important, because now we have our one part that we want to add, and we need to select what that piece of material is. For today's example, let's do a textbook. A lot of our instructors use those. We'll go with physics. And now this is where you can assign the content. And you'll notice you can choose to assign all the content. I really don't recommend you assign a 1,000-page textbook for one assignment. And you can also do chunks. You can do an entire chapter if need be, or a single section. It's up to you. And you can assign the material. You can also assign page ranges if you happen to know that. Maybe it's not strictly section 1.2. Maybe it's page 96 to page 115, and it's combining sections 1.3 and part of 1.4. You can do that as well. So it's completely customizable. And this type of system translates to other pieces of material too. PDFs, Word documents, you can adjust the range there as well. So once you have your material chosen, get it all set up here, we come into our next step. Now, this is our options menu, and this is where we detail out everything for the assignment that's fairly standard. Submission deadline, assignment name, instructions we may have for our students if we need them to pay attention to any particular pieces of material, and when we want the assignment visible. This is an important feature. A lot of our instructors build their courses early. They want those assignments there, but they don't want the students to see everyone like a giant laundry list of what to do. So instead, they have those assignments released every week, 1 or 2 a week, depending on their schedule. That way, students are only seeing the items they need to be working on now, and it keeps them in the present. Most of our instructors utilize that tool, highly recommended. And you can also, this is where you can choose how you want to assign your assignments. This is something we do cover more in depth in the next level, because this goes into some more advanced features. It goes into utilizing custom groups, creating assignments based on those groups, creating assignments for specific students only or excluding students. So a lot of options here. Again, those are covered in next level. Right now, we're just doing a basic assignment that goes to the whole class. This, though, is an important feature that I want to highlight: anonymous posting. You can allow your students, by default, this is the option chosen, to allow your students to post their comments anonymously. And this is a great tool for your students to build confidence. That's the most feedback we've gotten, because students will start to post those comments here within Perusall. And it's those students you typically don't hear from in lecture, the ones that are a little more reserved. They'll start putting forth their original ideas here in Perusall, but they'll do so anonymously. And the reason why I love this so much and why it's such a fantastic feature is the feedback we've gotten is this goes to outside of Perusall. Because Perusall, even though we're sitting here on a computer screen, this is still a form of public speaking. Students are sharing their interpretations of the data. They're communicating with one another. It's kind of like an online forum in a sense. And so that is a form of public speaking, which can be difficult for our students. This gives them a way to kind of help build that confidence. But my favorite piece is that I hear from students all the time, these students start talking in lecture. They start talking in the classroom. So it helps them make that leap because they build the confidence in what they are understanding in the material, and then they feel comfortable sharing that in the classroom. Great feature. With that being said, there are, unfortunate things that do happen in the world we find ourselves in today. So that means this isn't anonymous to everyone. Our instructors always know the author of every single comment put forth. You are never in the dark. You will know the who, what, when, where, how, and why. And with that being said, our instructors do know our classes. There are some classes and some courses of students that cannot handle that type of responsibility. And so we've given the option here to do not allow students to post anonymously. That is one of the features too. And again, that goes great for peer review assignments. It goes great for things of that nature as well, where students want, or instructors want their students to have that accountability. There's also this, ties back into peer review, where you can require all students to post anonymously. Again, great for peer review assignments and things like that. And you as the instructor always know who's putting forth the comments. It's only anonymous peer-to-peer. The rest is standard stuff, just whether it's optional. If you want to remind the students to do their work, if they're not doing it, give them a little email. And last, arguably the one largest topic of conversation, scoring. So there's two options when creating an assignment for your scoring, and that's to use the ones that are built under scoring settings, which we're going to go look at here in a second. And they govern every assignment that you create in Perusall. Your general scoring settings will control those if you choose this option here. And those options under your general scoring settings are identical to these here. These are the ones you can choose if you want to do custom scoring parameters for your assignment, which is possible. So you have your general settings that apply to every assignment you make, or you can override those with custom scoring parameters, depending on the type of assignment you put forth. Excellent for folks who, 95% of the time they do a text-based assignment through, PDFs, Word docs, or a textbook, but every once in a while they pepper in a video or a podcast. This is great to customize those scoring parameters to match that content. Okay, we got a video, we want to change up how this is evaluated. Or we're doing a quiz that's embedded in the assignment. We want to change how it's evaluated. So you can do that. This is the customizable version for each assignment. I'm going to take us out of this now, and we're going to go look at the general ones. So we're going to navigate over here to settings, and we're going to go into scoring. And under scoring, we're going to go here into general. Automatic scoring. And automatic scoring here, you're going to have a wonderful PDF that I'm actually going to link to everyone in the chat right now. That's going to go into great detail about scoring and also provide a mathematical example of it. And let's talk about this. How does Perusall scoring work? We have 7 parameters that you can evaluate your students on. Each one can be customized except for reading to the end and quizzes. These are the only 2 that are straightforward based on the weight of the percentage you give. Other than that, the rest can be customized. And the reason we went out of the customization for each individual assignment is because there's one large difference between the general scoring settings and the per assignment scoring settings, and it's under comment content. Here, under this option, there is this option to decide how you want to award credit. You cannot choose this on a per assignment basis. It is the only option you cannot choose on a per assignment basis. And this is deciding whether or not you want your students' comments graded based on quality or based on quantity. So you can choose quality-based scoring, which employs our Perusall machine learning algorithm. It's our secret sauce. And your students' comments will be evaluated based on their quality. They will not only have to reach the minimum number of high-quality comments put forth, they will also have to be considered high quality by our system. Our system is wonderful, but with that being said, Perusall was created to aid an instructor, not replace. So at any time you can override the quality score given, and it can be done so with ease across all assignments in the entire platform. We have lots of areas where you can do that. With that being said, it was built out by having our system study how thousands of instructors from every discipline and all across the world graded comments by hand, and it's spot on. Rarely do we get instructors that disagree with the quality comment given, but again, you can override that at any time. And we do like to say, there are no two instructors on earth that are going to sit side by side and grade a comment the exact same way, which is what our founders found when they went out and did this exercise. But our system comes as close to that as possible. And it's very spot on. Occasionally, instructors will override, but it happens few and far between. The other option, participation based. You just want to make sure your students are putting those comments forth. One of our founders actually utilizes this at his course. He teaches at a statistics course, and he has participation based. So that's an option too. And again, these options are only available under the global settings. They cannot be customized. So the one you choose here is going to govern every assignment. That's why I address it instead of doing the custom ones. Now with that, you can see there are also some areas where you can apply deadline extensions, and you can adjustomize. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's Friday, everyone. I've done like 12 of these this week. You can adjust the percentage of each. But the cool thing about that, and this is something I really enjoy telling our instructors, and they fall in love with too when they see this is how the system operates. Perusall, you can see here, this is our holistic template, and we go over each template in depth in our next level. This is just a quick look. These numbers add up to 100, well over 100%. They actually add up to 170%. That doesn't mean your students can earn extra credit. What it means is your students have the opportunity to still earn full credit, even though they may be struggling in some areas. So perhaps they haven't really dialed in that skill of writing high quality comments, of communicating with their peers. They're still learning that. Maybe they're not doing well on quizzes yet because this is a new type of material that they're learning to understand. But they're reading to the end of every assignment. They're actively engaging. They're getting responses. They're coming back and revisiting and checking on conversations. The percentages they miss from other places, they can make up elsewhere to still be eligible to receive that full credit through hard work. Really cool system that is available to you to employ, not mandatory. You can also set these up to add up to exactly 100%. A lot of our instructors do that too. The majority does lean more towards giving that option for students to still be able to succeed. Running through these real quick, we covered the comment content. Opening assignment, this is a way to reward your students for checking back and opening the assignment, revisiting the material. Reading to the end, straightforward. They got to read top to bottom of the assignment. Active engagement time, this is an interesting one. This is going to be your students leaving a comment, responding to a peer, reading at an appropriate pace, something within a 2-minute window in order to earn those 2 minutes as active engaging. And this is a great way to measure your students' active participation in the material. You can also reward your students for writing comments that get responses, conversation starters. They're promoting, that social learning. You can reward them for that. Upvoting, very cool too. This is whether or not your students give, receive, or a combination of the two of upvotes. And then of course, quizzes. And this can all be customized to your particular learning style. And that's something I do specialize in, and I'm more than happy to help any instructor that needs it. If you ever want to sit down and chat of how can I set this up to best fit my teaching style, the so my students can succeed. I'm always happy to do that. It's a big part of my job. So with that being said, I will be putting my email in my chat, or in the chat. And if anyone ever needs to reach out about that, more than happy to assist.
Nolan, while you're doing that, a quick question in the chat.
Yeah.
Betsy said, I don't have an option for automatic scoring anymore. It was there at the start of the semester, but it's gone now.
Really? Okay. I would love to jump. I could jump into this right now because I'd love to see what was going on. But I'm going to direct you to reach out to support@perusall.com. I'm going to put that email in there, because they'll be able to go into your account and see what's going on. I've actually never heard of that happening, so I'm very curious as to why that option isn't available. But I don't want to take us too off track from our webinar here today. But our support team is a good way for me to put this out there. Real folks. You reach out to our support team. I actually know everyone on the team. They're fantastic. And when you reach out directly to them, and they'll be able to help you. Even if it comes to having to hop on a Zoom call like this, we will sit with you and see what's going on and make sure you get back on the right track. So I can't highlight them enough. They're fantastic folks. It's actually where I got my start many years ago. And okay, so with that being said, great question. They'll be able to help you. What does this all look like? This is a lot. We figured out how to build everything, set everything up. There are more settings we'll cover in the next level and things like that. But let's take a quick look at what this looks like. So this is what an assignment in Perusall looks like. Here are our instructions. Here are the parts of our assignment we've put forth. Here is the most upvoted, least, and most active students, as well as a little progress report. We do have our confusion report and our analytics, two things I will cover in depth in the next level. But for today, this is what a really well worked on assignment looks like. This is all comments in blue are those created by instructors. Those in yellow are those created by students. And when we click into a conversation thread, this is what we see. We see students engaging with the material, posting GIFs in Jonah Hill. I put that in there as an example of what can be, I have to pause it. I'm so sorry. It's so distracting. It's what can be done with the material. We do have a little bit of lightheartedness in here for our students so that they can, enjoy and have some fun here. We can put in emojis. We can put in Jonah Hill. And we can also do, this is what a standard comment, high quality comment would look like. Proper interpretation of the material. We have an equation embedded there. We all remember SOHCAHTOA. And, the conversation goes from there. We have, a response with a link out. We have a poll. We have an upvote of a question. We have an upvote of an agreement statement. We have folks quoting each other. We have folks flagging comments as inappropriate, something that is possible through Perusall. We have an auditing feature, again, something we cover in depth with our next level. We also have the ability to override a score at any time within the assignment itself. And we have the ability to add comments anonymously. This is what they appear as. And we can put a lot into our comments. We could do code snippets, mathematics. We could do images. We could do links. We could do videos. We could do dictating our comment by voice, posting anonymously. We can customize the text in any way we need so that our conversation threads are our own unique perspective that we're putting forth, which is great for our students. And navigating through the material, very straightforward. You simply click into assignment, and you're pulled right to that comment. Click into a particular comment and you get pulled right there. And there's a lot of details here that, again, we are covering in our next level. This is all just the basics. We just want to get our feet under us. And so this is what this all looks like. Now, what does this look like from an LMS perspective? I provided those directions in the link earlier in the chat. It's going to show you exactly how to build it out from your side of things on Canvas as an instructor. It's a very straightforward process, but once you have it integrated, this is exactly what it looks like. Everything we've covered here today. The only difference between the Canvas connected course and one where you would have students log in through perusall.com to access your course is providing them with information. With a course where students have to log in through Perusall.com, under your getting started, you just need to provide them with this course code. That is how they enroll. It's very easy for them to do so. With an LMS connected course, in your Canvas, for example, let me get back to where I was. A Canvas connected course, your students will have what's called assignment specific links. And that's all detailed in that article I provided you. When your student clicks on that assignment specific link, their entire profile will be created for them based on the information in the LMS. First name, last name, email, student ID will be pre-populated. Your students don't have to do anything but click that link you provide for them. And those links are created for each assignment. And when they click that link, your students actually get pulled right here. They get pulled directly into the assignment. They don't need to navigate. They don't need to log into anything. They don't need to go searching for anything. Boom, they get pulled right into the assignment and they can get to work. And when they get pulled in, they see their directions here, which is wonderful, the due date and any parts of the assignment. And they also get a fantastic tour, which they're going to ignore immediately. So that's the other thing they'll get as well when they load in from the LMS. That tour bubble will pop up saying, hey, welcome to Perusall. Check this out. And then they'll click out of that immediately. But the student side of things, it's very straightforward. I will take you to a very appropriately named course. We're going to go into Kyle's course, where I myself am a student. And you can see if there's a textbook, for example, that I need to purchase for that course, and I load in. When I click in from the LMS, this is where I'll be brought to. Quick pay screen, I pay for my textbook, I jump into the assignment. If it's a standard assignment, I will just get pulled directly into the assignment here. And this is exactly what it'll look like for a student loading in from the LMS. They'll get brought directly to this page. There'll be our cute little page here where they will give some suggestions for your students if you've had that setting turned on. Also, they'll have a little breakdown, they'll get the directions, and they can work on the material. That does bring us to about 2 minutes. Do we have any questions I can address real quick?
Nothing else in the chat. I do know some people said they had to leave for other meetings, so I did drop the link for the survey and also the link to register for sessions 2 and 3 if you have not already done so. We will have more marketing about that in the next week or so, but yeah, that was the links that I dropped in. Thanks for everything you shared with us today, Nolan.
Of course, happy to be here. I enjoy doing these, and again, my email's in there if anybody needs any assistance or has any questions.
Great, and we will look forward to seeing you next week at the same time.